Hey everyone. So I decided to make a little off-the-cuff video just while I have some thoughts pertaining to what it's like preparing a new role, preparing music that isn't recorded, that nobody has ever heard before. There's always a lot of comments. They come up in interviews, they come up when we are invited to speak to patrons or young singers. There's always this question of, how do you study a role? How do you learn a role? How do you get it into your voice? And obviously everybody's a little different. Everybody has a different way of engaging with the written note and the written words. And, I will admit, for me too, it can be so supremely frustrating. Yesterday, my pianist and I, we managed to really make some, I think, great progress. The whole role actually sits fairly easy for me, but this last aria is just such a weird thing. It's got very uncomfortable phrasing. It's kind of on the slow side. It sits in a very strange tessitura. So it has all of these challenges that you just kind of go, I don't know how to do this yet. Even though it's similar to other things that I've done in the past, and I kind of look in the back of my mind and I think, okay, well, I've sung La Sonambula, I've sung Anna Bolena, I've sung Marino Faliero, which I learned in 2 weeks. I've sung Matilde di Chabran, which I learned in 2 weeks. So it's like, there's not really anything in this that is so extreme compared to other things that I've sung. But yet everything has to happen in its own time. It takes time to get these things to where you want it to be. And I'm certainly the kind of person, little fun fact about me, when I was a baby, I actually walked before I crawled. And that has been a little bit of I don't even know, just like, not a curse. I don't want to say that it's a bad thing. It's not a bad thing at all. But it is one of those things where I've always had this tendency to I want to get to the end result and not have to go through all the steps to get there. And so sometimes I know that I personally feel like I have to do so much more work in order to get what I know that I'm going to be able to achieve. And I'm sure I'm not the only person that's out there that's like that. So, part of the work that I did yesterday, for example, is that I really deconstructed the piece. There's a big, I think, mistake that a lot of singers, especially young singers, make, where we have this idea that we have to start at the beginning of a piece and we sing through the whole thing. And if you can't get through it, you start from the beginning and you go and go and go. And this is one of the worst, I believe, one of the worst ways to work something. Sometimes you have to work backwards. Sometimes you have to start with the last phrases and get those to a comfortable point, and then you continue to add onto what has, you have to add on what precedes what you've already done. That was the way that I was able to figure out how to sing A Dove from Semiramide, which also, it's a monstrous aria. Way more difficult than this one, but this one's just kind of, it's uncomfortable. It just sort of sits in a weird place. The way that it's written is kind of weird. The text is a little weird. So, it does pose a certain number of challenges. So some of the different tools that I'm attempting to use as I work on this piece, and we didn't do too much work on it today because we did a lot of work on it yesterday. So today was just kind of like a little bit of trying to reinforce the things that were done yesterday. And I will do more work on it tomorrow. But now that I'm heading home for the evening, I will be still thinking about the piece. But so whereas yesterday was kind of sort of deconstructing, doing different phrases and different phrase groupings to try and connect certain things, part of it was finding, I just don't want to get run over here. Part of it was finding the the tempo, and I'm still not exactly settled on a tempo. One of the biggest challenges when learning slow music is that you start to work against the sorry, I'm distracted. You start working against your breath, right? Because you're trying to sustain, and then you're not singing, you're not breathing, you're not releasing. And releasing is the most important part. You take a breath and you exhale, and you have to exhale through a phrase. But when it's new, when you don't really know where it's going, that's the challenge. So of course you're like tanking up, you're saving, you're trying to like get through it. So the key to yesterday was, okay, let's take a super fast tempo. It's not a performance tempo. It will be sung, it will be performed a little bit slower, but let's do that because I need to feel where I'm breathing, how I'm breathing. I've got to feel the what I and my teacher have called fast air. And that's about really feeling the engagement of the breath and the release of the breath through a phrase, and specifically at the end of a phrase, so that you don't stack your air. And it's really hard. This is an aria that is literally the span of one octave, B flat to B flat. So there's no chance to even go down below until I get to the final cadenza. And then I can kind of go down to the lower register to give my larynx a little bit of a break. This is totally one of the most important little aspects to share, is that when you're working slow music, it's important to work it at a workable tempo, not the performance tempo. You're not yet performing. And that's something to always remind yourself, because as you're getting frustrated, as you're getting, I want to go, I want to do it, I want to sing it, I want to finish it. Yeah, but you have to give it time and you have to work it in, right? You also have to work in the tempo. So the same way that you work on fast music slowly, you have to work on slow music quickly. And then on top of that, so now I'm at a point where, okay, I basically know where we're going, how the phrases are lining up. I still need them to settle a little bit more. Trying to find the right vocal color, because obviously it's very lovey and amorous. It's not super heroic, even though the rest of the role is kind of very trumpety. But at the same time, the vocal color of the piece can't be so different or distanced, trying to say too many words at the same time, from the characterization, the sort of tonality, the timbre that I'm giving to the rest of the piece. And so what ends up having to happen is you can get trapped in attempting to create false sounds because you're trying to create an effect instead of just letting the voice be super free, super easy, super relaxed. That's the most important thing to be working on now. And again, it's like our brains in general kind of go, oh my God, but I want to be able to do it like that. We have to get there. We can't be there until we've done all the other steps in front of it. So another little tool, and it's kind of going to be what I'm going to do for the rest of today, is actually lip trills. And I don't do lip trills in this fashion quite often, but what I find that can be useful with lip trills is that it will help me to determine where my breath is holding. And it is a very low impact, so to speak. You have singing, which is high impact, right? What we do is athletic. What we do is, in a sense, like a sport. And so when you play a sport or when you train at the gym, you do one muscle group, and then you change the muscle groups. You can't just keep working the same muscles day in and day out. Otherwise, you're going to experience some extreme fatigue. So the thing that I that's also something to keep into consideration from yesterday, which was a big workout day on this music. Well, to sing that same music again today is, I mean, we worked on some other things too, because you have to move away from it. You can't drill these things so much. Otherwise, you start to practice it incorrectly and you start to practice it tired. And that's never really a good thing. So you want to take it easy. So part of what my assignment for myself today is that, because I don't want to lose the work that I've done yesterday, so today would be an ideal day to do some light lip trilling where I'm focusing on breath and breath direction, and as well, you know, continuing to get the pitches, to get the rhythms, to get sort of the shape of the phrases into my head, into my ear, and into the breath. And then with the lip trills, and you just keep it very, very light. You don't have to sing, you don't have to give a lot of force behind it. It's really just a way to kind of, in a sense, a therapeutic way of continuing to study. People have different ideas about lip trills, and some people find that they tighten up too much if they do them. Some people think it's a waste of time. Some people are like, oh my God, they have to lip trill absolutely everything. You know what? You got to find the balance of what works best for you. I find that in this case, where I'm having to do something that is particularly challenging, for whatever reason, it's a really challenging piece. And it isn't just falling off a log like kind of the rest of the role, very fortunately, has been. That's not to say that there aren't difficult and challenging things throughout, because there are, but they are all sort of a piece. And then there's this piece, which is something totally different. So the point that I'm making is, it's really, really important to find the right tools and when to use them so that you can get where you need to go. Don't just slam it. Don't just shout through it. And it takes time. And we all start to feel like, oh my God, I've got the performance coming up. Oh my God, I need more time. And the reality is, again, I look back on some of the crazy things that I've done in the past where I would be like, oh my God, I would never do that. And then it turns out I've done it. You know, you just kind of go, all right, there's still time. There's a lot more time than I had in some of those other projects. And those roles were technically even more difficult. So this is about trying to find a way to legitimately optimize the time that is available and to encourage your voice, your breath, your brain, your ears to find their way through the phrases, to find their way through the piece. I can't stress that enough, that if you approach it with stress, your singing is going to be stressed. And that's tough, because I'm fighting that myself. I'm fighting the whole urge of like, oh, I want to have this done. I want to just be able to sing it and not have to think about it. Of course, I mean, it'd be nice to just be able to sing it and not think about it. I got to think about it. That's just the reality. So these are the thoughts on my mind after I've just finished my little session. I'm now gonna hop on a bike, go back to my area of town, go do some sports because I didn't get to do anything this morning, go do my workout, maybe go for a run and decompress and, you know, just think about this music. Silent practicing is another really, really, really important tool. I'm probably going to start making a series of videos to start talking about specific things, some technical things, some musical things. I'm sort of getting to a point where I'm very interested in sharing some of the information that I've been very fortunate to amass and to have shared with me over the years. And so definitely stay tuned for more stuff. But for now, see you later. A bientôt. Ciao.